Generals, everyone. I'm your host, Bruce Snyder, and we are thrilled and delighted to be joined by the one and only Al Snow, the man in charge of Ohio Valley Wrestling, the man who has been on the wrestling scene since, I think, 1982, Al?
1982, yeah, was my very first match. May 22nd of 1982 was my very first match.
We're going to do this interview in two parts. We'll get into Al's career and all the fun little stories he might have in wrestling in a little bit. But first, I want to say congratulations, OVW, doing some great things. And I know just recently you scored a really good deal with the cable company U2, which means OVW's exposure is going to go all over the country.
Yeah, we have a partnership with U2 America. They're a national network. They're both on broadcast and cable networks, and they have a streaming network of their own. So all combined, we have a reach now with WBNA, our local
Channel 21 in Louisville.
21. Yep. We have a total reach of 42 million homes across the United States. So if you do the math, the average house, that's about 120 million people that we can reach.
That's a huge victory. That's a huge thing. Do you let yourself enjoy those, or are you so focused on the business that it's like, well, I can't bother with that. I'm already looking 2 weeks ahead to the next project?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, because that's how the business operates, is no matter what you've done, you've always got to use it to now build to the next thing. And, you're always looking down the road. I mean, I'm very excited, and because this is going to change the game for us in a lot of ways. And it's going to open up a lot of doors. It's going to create a lot of opportunities. It's really going to allow us to market what we've created here. It's going to allow us to market the school on a national level. It's going to attract more talent to the roster, just in general. I mean, it's such a positive thing, and not, because of, well, you get on a national network, but because it gives us a chance to expose what we've been doing to a much broader audience. And that's been the goal since day one.
If I had talked to the Al Snow back in 1982, when,
Right.
You had stars in your eyes and you had all these dreams,
Right.
would that Al Snow believe me when I said you're going to be a businessman one day and you're going to be running a wrestling company?
God, no, I'd have thought you were completely out of your mind. Then no way, And I tell people this all the time. I remember I had this conversation not too long ago. One of the boys, we were doing a television review class, and one of them asked, well, how long was it? Because today, the nature of the wrestling business is, I've got to get signed. I've got to get signed with a national company. I have to get signed. That's all they care about. They don't even care who it's for, just as long as they get a contract with, some company. And when I broke in, that wasn't the case.
You broke in the territory days.
True.
Yep.
And the last thing you wanted to do was ever get locked down to any one place. And
why is that?
Because you're basically a product. And that's the one thing I keep trying to impart, is that there's a lack of understanding of what the wrestling business really is. A wrestler's job is solely to use their performance in the ring to sell the product, which is themselves, to motivate an audience to want to leave their home and watch them in person, have that experience. And it's a very, very tough job, and it gets exponentially harder every year because there's so many other options in regards to entertainment. Right. So you've got to, not just, hook an audience to where they won't turn the channel, but you've got to hook them so much that they are motivated to leave the safety and comfort of their home and drive to a building, probably on a larger scale, pay to park, which is an absurd thought. Here, I'm going to put my car in here and I'm going to pay for you to let me do it. And then pay a lot of times an exorbitant amount of money to get in the building, sit in a seat they don't want to sit in, around people they don't want to sit around, let's be honest. Pay for food they don't want to eat.
Right. And
then just to watch the wrestler do his job. And that's a very, very difficult thing to accomplish. And as a product, the problem is, no matter what the product is, it has a shelf life. What we call in the wrestling business, you have a run. And then, no matter how much you love peanut butter, at some point in time you get sick of eating peanut butter. so now you want something different. And in the old days, they had the territorial system for the wrestlers. That was great because, you'd have a certain run for a certain amount of time that you'd be very successful, but then you'd start to get stale in, say, Memphis.
Right.
Well, then you could always leave, and you'd go to Florida. You could go to Texas. You'd reinvent yourself. You'd go to New York. You'd go somewhere else. So you could and you'd come finally back to Memphis. You were fresh. You were new. You were,
right.
you were, a brand new product that they hadn't seen in a while. Now, a lot of the issue is with the modern day situations is that the talent have no other place to go. They are locked under a contract. They're staying. They become static, and then as a result, they become stale. And years ago, when I was with WWE, I had made the suggestion that both for the wrestlers' mental and physical health, and also so that you could keep them fresh, if you're going to make that investment in them, have a flexible season. You don't have an established, because nothing, quite honestly, nothing in wrestling is carved in stone. It's all based on gut feeling and,
right.
You just timing, everything. So you don't have it established like a football team or a basketball team where it's, okay, they go from this date to this date. But when you start to feel like they're starting to, kind of burn out a little bit, you can see them physically or emotionally burning out, or mentally from the stress and the travel, or physically, or the audience is just kind of starting to, because let's face it, no matter how talented Randy Orton is, so many times, we can only see Randy Orton against the
right.
same guy repackaged so many times. So take him off, you know what I mean? And now just use him at your live events, because you've already...
Make him a special attraction.
Correct.
Right.
And you've already had him on TV enough to where he's going to still be a factor at your live events. Let him have a little time on there to where you eke out that last little bit of investment. Now let him sit at home and just sit for 3 months or whatever the length of time until you really genuinely have a real idea of, oh shoot, if we had him back, we could, oh, hey, call him. And then you bring him back, he's fresh again. He's brand new. But
can you do that at this level?
No.
I mean, it's a lot different with the WWE that has a roster in the hundreds, as opposed to the roster here where it's a lot smaller. And
to a degree, and a lot of it happens on its own. That natural attrition kind of happens, just because of circumstance. You're going to have that run with a talent to a certain point, and then they end up sitting backstage. Not because you don't like them, which they all think. He didn't like me.
Of course, because the only thing on their mind is their career, and how can you not be looking at them? How dare you look at the big picture, right?
Right, yeah. Yeah, I basically tell them that my job is to look at the entire forest where they can only see their tree, which is right in front of them, so they don't see any of the rest of the rest of the forest could be on fire, which usually it is. And I'm running around peeing on each tree trying to put it out, and they're just busy staring at their tree. That's all they care about, which I get. I was one of them. I understand that. But it's just a natural thing that they'll have a run and then they'll end up sitting backstage. And, in the whole time that they're sitting there, I'm constantly going, oh, what about this? What about that? And what about this? Until I hit upon the right thing that I think that works.
Do you know it when it happens? Do you have that sixth sense? And you're like...
I just feel it. And, the way I describe it so that people, an analogy, it's the only way I can literally explain it, and is that I'm always putting together a picture puzzle. The wrestlers are nothing but pieces. I don't want to dehumanize them.
Right, no, with all due respect, the wrestlers
but I'm making
are
a picture that for whatever reason, and I don't know why, just in my gut, I figure, okay, for this period of time, and it's all timing too, you can't quantify some of it. I know that what's going to sell, or I think is going to sell, is I need to make a picture of a horse. And so I start assembling and starting to piece it together. And as I'm piecing it together, the picture starts coming more together. It's not a horse running, it's a horse standing in a field. It's just standing in a field. There's a wooden fence, there's a barn, it's a white horse, the tail's flowing, the mane's blowing, one leg's up, you know what I mean? So I can start piecing that together. Because I know that once we get that, the whole show's going to get this. So the problem I encounter is that one, I'm putting that picture puzzle together, but I don't have a lid, and I don't have any edge pieces. So I don't know what, I can't verbalize it to somebody because they don't understand that. But the other problem is now I encounter talent that, of course, are busy doing this, and I need them for whatever reason, and I don't know why, and it's not because I don't like them. I just need them to be the hoof. They see themselves as the mane, the flowing mane, and they don't want to be the hoof. Well, now that throws the whole picture askew because I can't make a three-legged horse. It ain't going to sell.
Right.
So now I've got to change the whole picture because the one guy or the talent, because this is a big myth in wrestling. And it's propagated most of it is by the wrestlers themselves. And I was just as guilty, is that, the writers or Vince or somebody else held me back or did this or whatever. And it's like, once you walk through that curtain, there is nothing, no matter what they tell you, there's nothing anyone can do to help you,
right.
and there's nothing anyone can do to hinder you,
right.
okay? The problem that happens is I've got this picture, I'm trying to put it together, and I need the guy to be the main, flowing, but for whatever reason, he doesn't know how to deliver. So he doesn't become the piece that fits, you know what I mean? And so now the whole picture gets scrapped. It doesn't work.
See,
and that happens a lot of times.
But if it was me, I'd be the best hoof or best main I could be. And here's why.
True.
Because I equate it to cooking a meal. You spend all day cooking the meal and you eat it in 10 minutes. I used to say with my sportscast, it'd take me 9 hours to put together a half-hour sportscast, and then it's over in a half hour. So I'm not only going to nail it, I'm going to enjoy it. When they come out here,
this is different, though.
But why? When they come out here, all of a sudden, everything that they've been working on, now the spotlight is on them, and they can nail it.
Sometimes they can, but sometimes, and then that's where the experience comes in, because this is an art. Quite honestly, it's the art of physical storytelling within the context of a competitive situation. No ifs, ands, or buts. And if you're not taught that, if you're not taught or understand, or you've not had the experience of how to deliver to make yourself that piece
right.
at the right time for the right reason, you don't know how to do it.
So when you see someone struggling or taking this path rather than that path, and you're sitting in the producer's chair, does a part of you almost want to say, stop, run down here and say, no, you need to do it like this? Obviously you can't. The show has to continue to be fluid, but does it drive you a little nutty?
Oh, constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the best part of the show is backstage where I'm back there running the circus, flipping out. But I can't because I want everyone to succeed. That's where the frustration comes in for me, is I sincerely and genuinely want everyone to succeed and it's not because I'm some magnanimous individual. I'm not Mother Teresa of wrestling by any means. It's quite honestly very simple. The more I have everyone succeed as much as possible, the better it makes me look. And the more successful I am, and the more successful OVW is, which then in turn is more successful I am. So it directly benefits me to make sure that every one of these people have as much of an opportunity and the best chance to succeed as possible. And the same goes for Vince McMahon.
Sure.
I don't know why these people think that he would ever go into business, whatever any businessman would go into business, invest a ton of money into a talent, and then go, well, I don't want him to succeed. But what? Are you insane?
Right.
Why would any guy I'm going to buy a car lot and I'm going to put a bunch of cars on it, spend a lot of money, put the cars on it, and then I'm going to set the price so high that I could never sell them.
Not only does it make no sense,
Yeah.
but you wouldn't make any money that way. Okay.
That's the idea.
But here's what I've noticed. I tend to study people. I try and look at their mannerisms. When you walked into the ring just now, you got a little bounce in your step. Does it, just a little bit, I was watching your face, does it still excite you to get into the ring? Even though you're not in front of the camera as much these days, you still enjoy it? What is it about coming in here that just totally gets you?
I don't know. If I could answer that, when people ask me why I wanted to do it in the first place, I'd be able to answer that. I don't know. It's always been a passion for me. I always find it interesting, and I was going to post on social media at one point, and not in a negative way, just advice. But of course, if I give advice, if you're smart enough, I don't need to tell you. If you're dumb enough, you ain't going to listen. I see people constantly on social media going, oh, I'm putting in the work, I'm grinding, I'm back at it again. And it's like, and I got to thinking about it. It really hit me. I was driving the car one day and I thought, I've never done it. I've never ground anything. I've never put work into anything. Now, please don't misunderstand. I have never been given anything, okay? Anything and everything that I've done, because I went out and I did it. But it was never work.
Right.
I mean, it was never work to me. I tell people all the time, for 38 years, I have been on vacation. I've done what I love to do. I don't look at it like when I hear these guys come out, oh, I'm paying my dues, and and it drives me nuts to hear them say things like, I'm driving to the towns, wrestling for no money, and I'm like, well, nobody drove to your house,
right,
put a gun to your head and said, hey, come be in the wrestling business. Why is it like it's a cross to bear? I can't honestly, like I get, the best time of my life was back when I was eating food off the engine of my car.
Right.
I couldn't afford a 50-cent sandwich at a gas station. So I'd buy Vienna sausages and I'd heat them up in a Boy Scout mess kit on the manifold of my car. I didn't have any money, but man, so much fun. I was free. I was doing what I wanted to do, And I gotta be honest, like, this is awesome and I love doing it. It sucks. I'd rather just go back and just be a wrestler. You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny. I was going to ask you about that. We'll get to that in a little bit. Mm-hmm. And yet, you still do it. And I think the reason why you still do it is obviously, you have a business, you want the business. I'm sure it's a little bit of ego and all that. But it is what you said. It's because you love it. And if you love what you do,
you honestly don't work a day in your life.
And you know what I think it is? I don't think it's a destination. I think it's the journey.
Oh, yeah.
You don't realize that when you're in the middle of the journey, but when you're taking the journey, and I'm not talking about going to a particular town, I'm talking about the journey of your life.
Yeah.
And you're like, how cool is this? I'm doing what I want to do. Yeah. That's when it's all worthwhile.
And I wouldn't, if I had never made the decision to do it, I'd never, I wouldn't get to meet you guys. I wouldn't be sitting here doing
that
this
alone is,
right. But the people I've met, the places I've gone, the things I've done, the experiences I've had have all been because of simply pursuing what I love to do. That was it.
So all of these students and all of these wrestlers that you're training and that are looking up to you, how do you impart that? This is the $54,000 question. I know if you had an answer to what I'm about to ask you, you would have already done it. But how do you impart that so that they understand it's not about complaining, it's about enjoying the process. And if you're enjoying the process, you're naturally going to get better because you're not working.
You can't. I try to explain this to people because thanks to social media, we're all experts. And we all, you're entitled to your opinion. I get it. Okay, everybody has one. It's like assholes. And usually they stink. Okay, and it's your opinion. Good for you. But on a particular topic or whatever, you have now, thanks to the phones in our pockets, you have access to, God knows, infinite amount of information.
Yep.
But you can have all the information you want on a topic, but if you don't have a commensurate amount of experience, you do not have any real knowledge of that topic, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. I use the analogy all the time. You can go to medical school. Depending on your what you want to do, your specialty, it can be anywhere from 8 to 12 years. The minute you graduate, you're not a doctor. You now have to go and finish residency training, which is supervised experience that is now where you can take the information and then put it in a real hands-on situation. Then you become a doctor because you have experience. That applies in everything in life. It is not just for doctors alone. And people don't understand that. And, if I could impart, just like when you're raising kids, and thank God they're cute, otherwise we'd all kill them. So, we wouldn't be other animals wouldn't be the only species that eat their young. You tell your kid, don't touch the stove. It's hot. Don't touch the stove. And what do they inevitably do?
Well,
and so
but they don't touch a stove a second time after
correct. That. And that's where I have learned is that sometimes I have to let them touch the stove. I have to put them out here, give them the opportunity, let them fail, We watch it back, and I explain what they did wrong or what they did right and what they could have done differently.
Here's the other thing.
Yeah.
When you started, and even a few years into when you started, people weren't smart to the business, at least not to the extent that everybody thinks they are now.
Oh,
Everybody thinks they know everything, and so...
No, people knew.
Oh, but they were not
smart,
nearly as brazen because there was no internet.
Correct, and people have known, I want to make this clear, people have known, and this may come as a shock, people have known that wrestling is a work, meaning the outcome is predetermined since the 1920s. Now let me say that again. 1920, the general audience has known that wrestling is predetermined, okay? The only difference between then and now is that we have allowed them even greater access with more information that gives them the assumption that they are smart to a business that they've never participated in. That's all.
Yeah, great. And if a magician did that, the magician would be out of business tomorrow.
I agree, but and I try to tell the talent all the time, and again, advice, if you're smart enough, I don't tell you, if you're dumb enough, you ain't gonna listen, and they don't. I try to tell them all the time because, and I get this question all the time, what do you think of social media and the internet? Is that the problem? Not at all. Social media and the internet is amazing.
Yeah.
Because used to, the only place we could market ourselves was on the promotions television show.
Right.
That was it. That was the only place. Now you have the tools to where you can literally make yourself into an attraction in your own hands. Look at the Young Bucks. They had done it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's the use of social media, the use of the internet. And that is what is the problem, is how the talent use it. It is not the tool itself. It's like, you know, and you can write your hate letters to Bruce, okay? But it, quite honestly, you know, it's no different than a gun. A gun cannot kill a person without the other person on the end picking it up and going and shooting somebody. Now, you know, I used to argue this point with Val Venus because I loved to stir him up. You know, when we talk about gun control, and everybody goes, well, let's eliminate all of the guns. It's like, eliminate the handguns. You know why they made handguns? So they were easy to carry, easy to conceal and shoot people. If somebody's walking down the street with a rifle, it's pretty obvious that they're going to go kill somebody.
Right.
You know, it's a lot quicker. Now, granted, they'll hide it some way, but it's not as easy as it is to just walk and put a handgun in your pocket. So, again, it's the use of the tool, you know? The most dangerous object in your house is not what you think it is. It's a fork. Think of what you could do with a fork to a human person, to a person. You know, the destruction you could wreak with that fork.
You could fork them up pretty bad.
You could fork them up. But it's the use of that tool, and the same goes for the internet. It's the use of the tool and how you conduct yourself on it that then either makes your job harder, which is to sell tickets to attract an audience, or makes you, or, you know, you give away your business and now make it, you know, 10 times as difficult, or makes it even easier because now you never break character. Because I always advise all the talent, make 2 social media accounts on all your platforms, make one for just your friends and family that only they can access, and be you.
Right. Be
comfortable, be you. Share your life. You know, if you want to do that, I would recommend don't, but you're not going to listen to me. And then make a second, and be the thing, be the person, be the that you sold in the ring.
Right.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because unlike, you know, what a lot of people don't understand, because, you know, we had this conversation one time in TNA with Impact Wrestling, you know, and the wrestlers held a meeting, and this came up, and one of the wrestlers was like, well, you know, actors don't do that. And no, they don't. What they do is that the studios had created this thing called a movie star or celebrity, and it's just a gimmick. That's why there's Us Magazine, there's People Magazine, all of those things were to give the image, because you may love Tom Cruise in The Last Samurai, but we need you to want to pay to see the next movie with Tom Cruise in it. So what do we do for those couple of years when he's filming that movie and it's getting done in post-production to keep him in the public eye and create a gimmick that keeps him larger than life? Well, now he's a movie star. Well, he's going out to red carpets, he's going to dinners, he's going to parties, he's at nightclubs, he's driving a fancy car. That's all completely created to continue to motivate the audience to be invested in Tom Cruise, so they'll go pay to see the next movie.
As we wrap up
Yes.
Part one of the interview, all right? I want to ask you, where do you see OVW going in the days, weeks, and months to come? And not only OVW, but I know there's the Al Snow Wrestling Academy. You've got your fingers in a lot of little pies, almost, so to speak. So where do you see this going?
Where do I see it going?
Yeah.
I want to.
Are you able to see it going, or are you too stuck in the moment?
No. The goal, which started with the Al Snow Wrestling Academy when I started doing basically satellite schools or affiliate schools over in Europe and in South America, was that what I wanted to create, and that was before I even bought this, was I wanted to create schools that technique-wise, culture-wise, audience-wise, were different and unique from each other. But philosophically, they're all the same. So to that end, like, I created syllabuses as far as training, and so that the trainers would understand what they were training, why they were training at the time they were training it, to explain it to the students, so the students understood they were learning certain skills that would now enable them to better not only learn but understand and perform the other skills better. So you could, and now that we have this here and we have an actual accredited trade school as a part of it, a wrestler can be here, and then they can spend their time, learn, perform, they develop, and then they, because of the network of other affiliate schools, they can leave here, they can go to the UK, and they can start to work with that school and that's running shows over there. And of course, they're going to have different style, they're going to have different technique, they're going to have a different approach. The audience is going to be different, so they're going to learn different skills, and what worked here may not work there. So they're going to figure out different things. Then they could go to Portugal, they could go to Greece, they could go to Romania, they could go to Denmark, Hungary, they could go to Chile in South America, Concepcion, and each place is going to have its own flavor. And by the time, if they get an opportunity on WWE, which is now a world stage, they're going to show up and they're going to be so prepared that there's no way they can't succeed.
So where's OVW 1 year from now?
1 year from now, I'm not sure. What I'm hoping is that OVW is two things. At least on a regional level, it is a thriving territory, meaning that we are running like we did when I first came here with WWE as the head trainer. We had built it up and developed it to where we did 186 live events. 52 of those were TV. So basically 134 of those were regional live events. So I want to get back to that, regionally at least, because we don't have the infrastructure and we don't have the staff and we certainly don't have the depth of the roster to be able to run national live events.
Not yet.
Not yet. Eventually, that would be where I'd like to go.
Okay.
But that's a whole other can of worms.
That's 5,000 more headaches, right?
It's a lot more, yeah. And then I'd like to, because of our national clearance, because that's for me, it's the biggest thing, is that national clearance allows us to now market the school, market the trade school, and really build up the student body, because again, the carrot is, I got to get signed with a national company. Well, now we are a national company and we have a gateway. You can walk right in, you can attend the trade school, you can learn all the skills, and then you'll get to perform on a national platform and have the best opportunity to be seen, to where you can then go to, WWE, which is an actual international platform, and that's what I want this to become, and not just a pass-through like it has been in the past. I want it to be a destination for talent, both going up, you know what I mean? And if they get a much greater opportunity with any other place, by all means, take it, run with it. But I also want it to be a place where talent that have already had their run can come, make a living, and reinvent themselves, and possibly get another chance at another run on a bigger, larger stage.
OVW, just as a reminder, is on TV twice a week in the Louisville area, both on Channel 21, actually. WBNA. I'm talking about, okay, so we know it's on 8 o'clock. Tuesdays.
Tuesday nights live.
Saturday morning,
Overdrive.
11 a.m. Overdrive.
We're one of the few companies.
Yeah, I by the way, that's my favorite.
I know it. Yeah. But we're the few companies that have two individual.
What's
shows.
the third one? Are you talking about
the third
the
one's
rebroadcast
it's the rebroadcast
on
but,
Saturday night?
And this will be an announcement, is that I want to create a different format for that replay time slot we have at 9 o'clock on Saturday nights.
You heard it here first on Ring Generals. So this is part one of our interview with Al Snow. Coming up next week, we're going to take a look and talk to Al about his career, both in the WWE and all around wrestling. Al, people want to follow you or follow OVW, where should they go?
Well, they can go follow me at The Real Al Snow, because there were some fakes out there. And literally, if you're going to fake being me, I just message you and go, look, aim the bar higher. I mean, if you're going to be a celebrity, be like Brad Pitt or something, you know, George Clooney, that might be me. Or Neil Armstrong, he was on the moon, for Christ's sake. In wrestling, OVW Wrestling, you can go to ovwrestling.com. You can go to Ohio Valley Wrestling on Facebook. I don't know why they made these multiple names. I think on Twitter it's Ohio Valley Wrestling or OVW. OVW or Ohio Valley Wrestling, go find it. It's not that hard.
And of course, don't forget to like us here on Ring Generals and to support the site as well. That would do a lot for us and we'd really appreciate it. So that's the end of part one. Next week, part two with the mad genius, Al Snow. I'm Bruce Snyder. Thank you for joining us and stay tuned.
What does everybody want?